let, yeah. So the class is now being recorded. Good evening, everyone. And this is Dr. Sameh again, and this is AA100A. What is it that we're doing tonight? We're doing Cleopatra. What is it that the book that we're addressing or we're using is obviously the book on reputations. We started off last time and it was more or less like casual talk where we engaged in a lot of discussions about our impressions and what we know about Cleopatra and whether we have good or negative feelings for her. We're sustaining the effort. We're going to do just that, but we're going to perhaps add to our perceptions about her from the sources that we have, whether these sources are historical sources, whether they are biographies, autobiographies, whether they are pieces of poetry and literature written for or against her, even the pieces of sculpture that she may have ordered at one point. Let me share the book with you and then go from there, inshallah. So this is the book. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Good.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Good,
Yes.
good. Nice. Very good. Okay. Can you still see my face?
No.
Yep.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Just the
Yes.
book.
It's on the bottom right.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I cannot see myself. Is it natural that I cannot see myself?
I am not sure.
Me neither.
Yeah, it's natural, doctor. If you're actually hosting this, it's possible that you can't see the window, so that's fine.
Let's see. I mean, at the end of the 2 hours, when the recording comes out, we're going to to see what will come out, inshallah. So anyway, it's AA100A, everyone. It's the arts, past and present. We spoke enough about that. I'm not going to repeat myself. See how beautiful this lady is, right? This is, of course, can you recognize the lady? Who's this?
Yes, Elizabeth Taylor.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so this is Elizabeth Taylor playing the role of Cleopatra. Okay, so whether Cleopatra was that beautiful or not, this is also one of the things that we're going to talk about. Okay, so book one again, everyone, it's Reputations. Okay, so reputations means that we're not only talking about Cleopatra, we have other people. As we go along in the book, it's Cleopatra and Cézanne and who else? Christopher Marlowe and other celebrities, other famous people across the spectrum in terms of occupations and persuasions. You have, a queen here with what's his name? I don't know. I keep forgetting his name. With Christopher Marlowe, you have a literary figure. You have a dramatist. With Cézanne, you have an artist, and so on and so forth. Okay. So remember when we spoke about the fact that we have 7 different art disciplines. We spoke about disciplines and we said that disciplines are arts of, areas of study. We're talking about arts here. So the disciplines that we are studying are arts. And we made this comparison between this course and the smaller course EL121N, and we said the focus with EL121N was on literature, the different genres, whether we're talking about short stories, novels, pieces of poetry, plays. But this time around, I mean, obviously, we're extending and expanding it so that by perhaps the end of the course, you would be able to appreciate not only literature, but the arts in general. So seven different art and disciplines that we have, guys. What are these seven art and disciplines that we're talking about? So the art or the arts disciplines that we're talking about are classical studies, English and English literature, art, history, history of science, history of music, and religious studies. When you count them, you will have the seven that we are promising you. Okay, so are we going to take something on the history of science? Not really. So we're going to perhaps in the interest of time, we're going to perhaps drop a discipline or two, as you're going to see. Of course, we're working according to a calendar. And if you check the calendar, you wouldn't have something on the history of science. Anyway, we have what we call a unifying theme, a theme or a thread that binds all of these areas of study together, which is the idea of reputations. Okay, so this is Cleopatra. Okay, and this is chapter 1, obviously. And these are the areas that we're going to address and cover together. We're going to start off with a small introduction. And then there is going to be something on our impressions and the impressions of others about and on Cleopatra. And then we'll talk about Cleopatra as portrayed and depicted in Hollywood and in Hollywood movies. And then we move from the 20th century to 2000 years earlier. We're going to move all the way to Rome, ancient Rome, and we'll see how Cleopatra was seen and perceived at the time. She was alive and kicking, of course, and she was an active participant in what was happening at the time. So we'll see how the Romans depicted her. So constructing Cleopatra and the spin that the Romans had with this depiction, and we're going to see whether whatever they said about Cleopatra was objective, was true, or was it prejudice and biases that they had against her because she was their perceived enemy. In this regard, we're going to deal with a number of sources. One of them would be a source by a very famous historian by the name of Plutarch. And Plutarch is more or less like a literary figure. I wouldn't call him a historian. He wrote one of his works was actually on Antony and others, and he was giving some kind of portraits and portrayals of famous historical figures in order to kind of warn the audience against perhaps the consequences of not doing well, of behaving in a bad manner, and also giving and setting examples by presenting people who were obviously doing a good job and stuff like that. So it's going to be, history. It's going to be biography by Plutarch, and it's going to also be poetry. We're going to have a poem by Horace, and Horace is a very famous Roman, poet and literary figure and critic. Okay, and then we move on, and we're going to have this heading, In Search of Cleopatra. We're going to talk about Cleopatra, how she was, whether she is a descendant of, like they say, of, kings and queens, and people are disputing the fact that she's originally Egyptian, and they said that she has also Greek blood and stuff like that. And also, before we leave this part, we're going to talk about how Cleopatra used to see herself, the images that she had of herself, and how this was reflected in the coins that she ordered, made in her image and about her. And then there is going to be a final reassessment of Cleopatra based on all of the above. We're going to come up with conclusions as whether she was treated in the fairest of ways or not. We're going to reassess. When we reach this stage, we will have enough material to be in a better position to come up with our own fresh conclusions as whether she was okay, she was more sinned against than sinning, or she was bad and everything. We're going to have a number of references that are going to help us here. We're going to have a reading, what we call reading, where you have a passage or something that you can read in order to illustrate and provide examples for a point or two that you're making. So 2 readings we're having as resources. We have reading 1.1 and reading 1.2. I'm not sure whether they are incorporated in the textbook or they have a separate book. We'll see in a minute. Am I making sense so far?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
doctor.
Yes,
Okay.
so far.
We'll have
Sorry,
to.
doctor, but I don't
You don't
understand
know.
anything. This is my first time here.
Yeah.
I didn't join last week, so I don't know
By the what's your name?
my name is Dalia.
Dalia what?
Dalia Al-Faleh.
Okay, so we're starting from the scratch here, Dalia. We're starting. Last time, like I said, was more or less like a background that I was giving about the course and everything. So you haven't missed a lot or much.
Okay.
I don't have to worry. Just focus and everything will be fine, inshallah. Okay, this is not. These are not classes in history, right? These are not classes of in really seeing whether we should appreciate the character of Cleopatra and the other characters or not. What we're doing is, whether we're doing Cleopatra or the other people, this is material that can allow us to develop skills, English literature relevant skills. The skill of for example, analyzing, the skill of critiquing and knowing how to make the case for or against something. So again, the focus is not really on history, on who is being treated well historically and who is not. We have skills that we need to develop by reading this material. Okay, so let's look at the set of skills that we're supposed to develop, that we're supposed to learn together in the chapter and in the other chapters. So the chapter will introduce you to a variety of study skills that are essential for the study of the ancient world and its reception. So it's the ancient world that we're dealing with. So how are we going to deal as English literature major students, how we're going to deal with historical, documents, and how to scrutinize them and see whether they are truthful and honest or not, how to check whether they are, perhaps, reliable or not. Okay, so once you have read the chapter, you will be able to assess a wide variety of historical evidence. So you're going to have, whenever people talk about history and they are referring to a certain event in the past, they have to have evidence. They have to have historical evidence. This evidence can be poems, can be histories, can be biographies, statues, coins, and so on. So you have them, and the producers and the creators of these items and things are saying that whatever they are saying is the truth and nothing but the truth. So by studying that, you'll be able to kind of figure out whether what they are saying is correct or wrong. I mean, the historical evidence that they are providing, we're going to check it and see how we can deal with it in order to perhaps uncover its falsehood if it is false, or say that this is correct and everything. This is one of the skills. Another skill would be to bring together into a coherent argument diverse material scattered over long periods of time. So the idea would be to allow you the opportunity to develop your own solid and coherent argument, to be able to talk about things, whether it's history or otherwise. So you're going to have diverse material, and this diverse material is going to be scattered here and there. So out of this diverse material, you're going to make an argument, and this argument is going to be solid and coherent. Coherent, of course, means that you don't say something in a paragraph and then the second paragraph you're contradicting yourself. Coherence is against contradiction, as you of course know. Again, you're going to examine and evaluate the context of source material and the motivations that lay behind its production. So you have source material. If you still remember, last time we spoke about sources, and we said that we have primary sources and we also have secondary sources. Okay, so again, we're talking about history. We're talking about the character of Cleopatra, and we have enough source material about Cleopatra. We're going to examine the sources in order to check again whether the sources are reliable or not. We're going to also explore the motivations and the motives of the writers of these sources, whether they were, objective and non-biased or the other way around. Again, you're going to recognize the changing perceptions over time towards the material. You're talking about 2,000 years. Okay, and obviously people change, circumstances change. So you might as well have, a change of heart, if you like, where you have changing perceptions. Whatever people used to take for granted in the past is now questioned and challenged. Perhaps in the past they used to say that Cleopatra is bad, but over time she finds people who read her in a better light, and they come up with conclusions that are totally different from the conclusions that other people had of her, and she is giving perhaps a fairer treatment, if you like. We'll talk about that. We're going to also reflect on how different times and cultures make use of the past. Okay, again, times change, and with change of time, you have change of mindsets, you have change of attitudes, and that may also impact how we read history and how we interpret and understand history. So these are some of the aims that we're going to kind of try to meet and address as we proceed. So we're starting with an introduction, and we're looking at the figure of Cleopatra. And while looking at the figure of Cleopatra, we're asking ourselves a set of questions. One of them would be how Cleopatra was portrayed in the modern world, how she was represented in the ancient world. So we have this, polarity out, this difference between the and contrast between the modern world and the ancient world. We're going to talk about the relationship between modern and ancient images of Cleopatra and whether they are consistent, compatible, or they are contrasted. We're going to see how people used to look on Cleopatra in the past and how they look on her now. We're going to also check the evidence available from antiquity, from ancient times, and see whether, based on the evidence, we should, keep our perceptions about Cleopatra or perhaps reassess them and change them. Again, it's all about revisiting Cleopatra's images and perceptions and see whether we should keep them as is or change them, perhaps. We're starting with impressions about Cleopatra. Remember when we spoke about Cleopatra last time, I said, if I say Cleopatra, what comes to your mind? We spoke about the idea of associations, and we said associations are the meanings and the words and the perceptions and the images that a word or a phrase triggers at the back of your mind. Remember when we spoke about Cleopatra, some people said it's ancient Egyptian civilization, the fact that she was a temptress, she was seductive, she was a disruptive, she disrupts peaceful household. She was, a doomed lover. Remember the associations of the word Cleopatra. When we drop the word Cleopatra, the ideas that come to your mind about her, right? Remember those associations?
Yes.
Okay, we spoke about that.
Yes.
Okay. So these are mere impressions. And what contributed to the building of these impressions, to us having these impressions about her? It can be the media, it can be the cinema. Somebody is having his mic on or active. And I kindly ask him or her to switch the mic off. This is a little bit disruptive and irritating. So if your mic is on, kindly, perhaps I need to check for myself. Wait. Who is having his mic on?
She's Sarah Muhammad.
Yeah. We also have Arwa Abdu. Yeah, please mute your mic, Arwa Abdu. Arwa. Boshra.
It's mute.
Yeah. Boshra, please. Hamza. Not Hamza, Hani. Oh, okay. Jamila. Yeah, actually, yes. Okay, so we're, okay. Can you see the screen still? No? Okay, so we're talking about the associations of the word Cleopatra and the impressions that we have of her and how we came up with these associations and those impressions, right? Again, not two people are going to agree on one single impression, and this is understood because it depends on where we, what our backgrounds are, where we come from, our level of education, with the, our different genders, right? So these are factors that people unconsciously or subconsciously think about when they come up with conclusions and impressions about something or someone. Again, we spoke about that last time, and we had diverse points of view when it comes to the character of Cleopatra. Some of you were very much supportive, and they said that she has a strong personality, and there is more to her than just her beauty, and she was a good ruler. And some other people were very skeptical of her every move. They were saying that she didn't have the interests of the ancient Egyptian people in mind. She was a manipulator. She was kind of playful, and she was putting her people at a disadvantage, right? Again, the reason why we have diverse views is because we have different sources, and those different sources present different perspectives on the character of Cleopatra. What are the sources that we have? How did we know about Cleopatra? I'm asking you, by the way. So try to think, how could you know about Cleopatra, and how could you form?
From the cartoon that I have watched when I was a child.
Kindly, your voice is too loud. Okay, if you can have this distance between your mouth and the mic. Okay, go ahead. What's your name?
My name is Jumana.
What? What?
Jumana.
Jumana. Yeah. Okay.
And
Jumana. Okay. Jumana Nagar. Yeah. Go ahead.
I know about Cleopatra from the cartoon that I have watched when I was a child.
Okay. So this is pretty much what formed the impressions that you have of Cleopatra, right? Are they negative or favorable? Do you like Cleopatra, or you're kind of skeptical of her every move and something? So what do you think of the character of Cleopatra? Jumana, did we lose you?
I think she is beautiful.
Okay.
And strong woman.
And what?
Strong woman.
Blah, blah, blah. What?
Strong woman, strong.
She was a strong woman. Indeed, she was. Yes. Okay, Jumana. Thank you so much. Okay, if I ask somebody, I'm going to have perhaps a different interpretation and a different assessment, because Jumana and whoever is going to speak are two totally different people. Jumana is saying that she have watched cartoons. Other people may have read Roman poems on or against Cleopatra. A third category would perhaps have read Plutarch and what he says about Antony and Cleopatra. Okay, so again, the sources that we read is going to also kind of cloud our judgment and color it, whether in the positive or in the negative. Our association with Cleopatra, perhaps in the modern times, would have to do with the fact that she was heavily presented and portrayed in the cinema. And whenever we talk about Cleopatra, we always have the image of Elizabeth Taylor, dressing in a very extravagant way and stuff, very beautiful indeed. Green eyes and all these kinds of things. So this is for most of us the image of Cleopatra. Okay, so as you can see, if you ask me, it's all about physical appearance and physical beauty. The cinema in the modern times is not presenting, or perhaps is not focusing on Cleopatra as a human being and as a character. Any specific reason? Why? Why do you think the focus is on physical beauty, is on her, giving a beautiful lady like Elizabeth Taylor the role of Cleopatra? Why? Why do you think cinema is doing that, or has been doing that?
I think
What's
it's
your name?
because they Summer.
Summer. Okay, Summer.
Yes. I think they want to emphasize on her image as a manipulative queen and woman and a lover. That's why they focus a lot on her appearance and beauty and so on.
Well, I beg to differ. I mean, this could be, this could be excuses for the Romans, because the Romans were her enemies. But we're talking about cinema makers in the 20th and the 21st century. Obviously, they are not in an open competition with Cleopatra. They are not her enemies. So the idea of presenting her as a manipulator is, I don't think it's out of the question. Perhaps they have other reasons. Any idea what other reasons?
Maybe. Yes, doctor.
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah, doctor. Maybe because this is the sources they have. They took these films only from the available sources about Cleopatra. They does not have reliable sources or other sources. This is what has been written about Cleopatra.
Yes. This can be, this is probable and possible. And also the idea that, the cinema, what is so characteristic about the cinema? The cinema focuses on what?
On the audience?
Yes, and also on visuals. Okay, this visual, yes, on imagery, on visuals and the visual image.
Maybe excitement, doctor. Excitement.
She grew up in violence, Katie.
Yeah, and also the box office. If she is presented or portrayed as ugly, obviously nobody is going to go to the cinema and watch her. What do you think of this?
Yes, true.
So they want to make money.
That would definitely impact the movie.
Right? So it's in their best interest that they portray her very seductive, very beautiful, right? If she's presented as perhaps another, lady who, plain and not very beautiful, and nobody's going. The idea that she has to be seductive and everything, right?
Yeah. Can I add something?
Absolutely. What's your name?
Pascal.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I think because she has been perceived as a beautiful character through poetry, through stories, through whatever, they have to make her they have to bring her back to life as a beautiful woman. But if she was the opposite, they would have also got a normal looking woman. It depends on the story, on the how she truly looked like before. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So if you look back at the sources, there is a great deal of talk about how strong her character is. This is not presented, for example. The focus is on her physical beauty and on how beautiful she is. Again, what I'm trying to say is that this coincides with the agenda of cinema makers. I mean, cinema is about making money, is about making an awful lot of money. And you cannot guarantee that unless you have excitement, unless you have something out of the ordinary. So if you present her as seductive, as extremely beautiful, so you guarantee that people are going to go to the cinema and watch whatever movie that is presented on her. This is my take. I mean, I may be wrong. I mean, like I said, that's only interpretation that we're making. And my interpretation is going to be different from yours based on the fact that perhaps I'm older, you're younger, you have your own perspective on things, the idea of gender, our levels of education. I'm not saying that what I'm saying is true and correct, and what you're saying is not. I'm saying that we all have our own perspectives on things. Okay, so the writer is saying that he wants to explore with us where these images of Cleopatra come from. What forces have combined over the last 2,000 years to produce our impressions of Cleopatra? And this is actually what we intend to do. So how is he going to go about it? He's going to start off with the 20th and the 21st century and then move all the way back 2,000 years back to ancient Rome, and then after that he will go to also ancient Egypt in order to collect impressions and gather evidence about Cleopatra. Okay, this is the poster of. Can you stop it? So this is, kindly mute your mic. So this is a poster of one of the movies on and about Cleopatra, as you can see, where as you can see, by the way, we are with you. Excuse me.
Doctor, there is a noise. We can't hear you clearly.
Okay, so like I said, this is a poster, and I would like us to kind of unpack the poster. Let's talk about its different items. When you look at it, what ideas come to your mind?
Again, Doctor, sorry.
I'm talking about the poster that you guys are having. This is obviously a cinema poster, okay? And this is obviously the character of the lady who is playing the role of Cleopatra. So when you look at the poster, what ideas come to your mind?
A strong lady in control.
Okay, so
Evil?
I don't know. I don't know. But can you say evil? You think that she... Okay, go on.
No ideas for me, Doctor.
Okay.
Felony lady with a strong character, maybe.
Okay.
Powerness and controlling.
Controlling. She
Responsible.
She grew up in violence, Katie.
Okay.
Lead.
So
Popular women,
perhaps,
maybe
yeah.
popular women.
Okay. So
Luxury.
She had accompanied with her father
Rich.
into exile.
Okay. Very good. Very good insights and very good ideas. Again, Nobody referred to the fact that she's, most of us agree on the fact that she seems to be in control, right? The image or the picture or the poster is also reflecting her, perhaps her strength of character, right? Okay, let's move on. So we're talking about the image of Cleopatra in popular culture. We're talking about the 20th century, where again the focus is on her beauty and perhaps other things. Have you by any chance, I mean, prior to the course, before registering in the course and getting to know that you'll have Cleopatra featured in one of the chapters, have you seen or watched any of the movies about or on her?
No.
A long time ago.
Yeah, I watched it as a kid, but I don't remember anything.
When I was little, yes.
Okay, good. Oh, okay. So again, I'm stressing the fact that this can be, I mean, your source of information about the character of Cleopatra, and this may be the reason why you're saying what you're saying, whether you are in favor of her, you're in her favor or you're against her. Again, so Cleopatra and Rome. So as you can see, Rome is up left. Can you see Rome on the map?
Yes.
Right? Okay, it's up left, while Egypt, where is Egypt? Can you locate Egypt on the map?
It is here.
Bottom right, Memphis and Alexandria.
It's here.
In the right, Doctor, down.
Yes,
In the
yeah,
right,
down on the right in the east, while I mean Rome is in the west. So how could the west and the east how could they reconcile? I mean, obviously they are very far away from each other. So how could Cleopatra go all the way up or Rome go all the way down? So what was happening 2,000 years back in time that brought the two together, the two countries together, if you like?
Can I answer?
Absolutely, yes.
Rome at that time were kind of conquered parts of North Africa already. So,
Okay.
and parts of the Levant. So sometimes they would just attack from Syria.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about what we call the Roman Empire. You know what
Yes,
an
the Roman Empire.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Roman Empire was in control. It was in control of long stretches of places around the world. And Egypt at one point would come under the control of Rome, right?
Yes.
So at the time in Rome, you would have people like Julius Caesar, like Octavian, like Antony, right? And at the time, there was in Egypt Cleopatra, and she was ruling, right? So
Can I add something?
let me finish my line of thought and then add all you like. Okay. So again, so you have Rome, the Roman, I mean the seat of government in the Roman Empire, and they have, of course, expansionist, goals and dreams, and of course, Egypt at the time was something, but they wanted to control Egypt, and the sitting queen at the time was, of course, Cleopatra. At one time, they would, send troops over to Egypt. And the troops are sometimes successful and sometimes they are not. Cleopatra, she was a queen and a ruler. She had to come up with, perhaps something that would prevent the Romans from invading the country and taking it over. So what is going to happen? Obviously, animosity and competitions between the two great empires. What is going to happen eventually? Eventually, Rome is going to take over, and Egypt is going to be a Roman colony, right? So during that time, and for this to happen, I'm sorry, excuse me. For this to happen, you know, Egypt and Cleopatra herself has to kind of has to have dealings and relationships with Roman commanders and leaders like Julius Caesar and Antony. And this is where the character of Cleopatra is going to come out, whether positive or negative. So as you can see, when you look at it, you need to also look at the idea that there was this animosities and these kinds of hatred between the two cultures, the Romans and the Egyptians. Okay, so when the Romans talk and write about the Egyptians, you don't expect them to say nice stuff. If the Egyptians are giving the opportunity to write about the Romans, you don't expect them to be saying very beautiful things. Okay, so again, when we have Roman sources, we have to have this in mind, that the relationship was not, you know, a healthy kind of relationship. It's not a relationship of cooperation. It was more of competition and enmity and hatred. Okay, so somebody wanted to say something. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Doctor, maybe because Egypt was rich in their food crops,
Yeah.
and Roman was in a state of war, so they needed Egypt.
At the time was, of course, because of the Nile. Because I mean, the Egyptian soil is always rich, and culture was at its. I mean, I'm sorry, agriculture was at its best. Yeah, this could be
one of the reasons. One of the reasons.
Yes, yeah, that this is a possible reason. Okay, so again, the reason why we're talking about that is, I mean, the background, the historical background that we're going to go on, you know, also expanding on, is that it's going to make all the difference when we talk about the sources, when we talk about the Roman sources, and whether they are biased, whether they are subjective and, you know, not objective and stuff like that. We're going to see how the Egyptians react. Do we have Egyptian sources? Romans were obviously in a better position at the time, perhaps more civilized. They have historians, they have, you know, writers. That's why, I mean, the number of sources, the number of Roman sources way outnumber those of the Egyptian sources. Okay, so we're moving away from Hollywood and popular culture, and we are traveling all the way back to Rome and Egypt. And this was a century before our common era. Again, I don't know whether you only have the book when you go to the when you go to the central LMS in order to check the books. Do you also have the you know, audio material and videos? I'm asking you.
No, we don't have it.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I do have it actually. I do have it.
What? You don't
I
have it?
don't have it too.
If you have an LMS account, you have it, but you don't know. If you have an LMS account, so you have it, but you don't know.
Yes.
Where is it? Where is it supposed to be?
Where is it?
Yeah, somebody's saying that everything is available on the LMS. Am I? Did I hear you well? Mm. Oh, okay.
Where it's supposed to be on exactly?
As
I'm
for
not.
me, it's available. It is available.
It is available.
Where is it?
That's good. Time good. It's on the LMS, on the central LMS. There is, it's called what? Central C, C something. It's an icon there. All you need to do is to press it, and you are on your way. Okay.
Okay.
It's called the centralized course content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's correct. Okay. Okay. So if we're moving all the way back to Rome, 2,000 years earlier, so we don't have cinemas, right? We don't have films. So what do we have instead? We have poems, literature, we have biographies, you have histories, you have statues and coins. So these are the things that we're going to deal with. Okay, and if we talk about poems and if we talk about biographies and histories, we're focusing somehow on Roman, sources. But if we talk about statues and coins, we're talking about the Egyptians, which is very strange. I mean, we haven't seen any written sources. I don't know whether Egyptians were not educated enough at the time or not, but most of the written material is Roman, not Egyptian. Okay. Again, while doing that, while checking the sources, whether they are Egyptian or Roman, we need to kind of have our own careful interpretation. And this careful interpretation of the sources has to also explore and check the motives of the authors and see whether those authors were, honest and faithful in their portrayals, or they were biased and have their own prejudices, and they have their own agendas. And we also need to know that we ourselves are not ancient Egyptians or ancient Romans. So our also our interpretation is bound to be different because of how different we are from them. So they are civilizations that are that reflect their time, and we are a totally different civilization. Okay, so constructing Cleopatra and the idea of the spin. When you put a spin on something, it means that you perhaps either exaggerate it or perhaps downplay it. So what's happening with Cleopatra is that the Romans are exaggerating her vices and her bad features and bad points. Again, you need to also remember that we're talking about a time where women were not looked upon in the best of manners. We're talking about a time when men were dominating. It's a world that is, exclusively dominated by men. Okay, so it's only natural that when you have a lady and they say that this lady was strong and this lady was the ruler of a big country, people are going to have their own doubts. Okay, so you have to also have this in mind. So the spin that the Romans are having in portraying the character of Cleopatra are or is inspired by the fact that she is a lady or a woman in a misogynist world. You know what misogynist is? Misogynist means woman hating. So this was a woman hating world. Okay, and also the fact that there was this competition and enmity between the Romans and the Egyptians. You have to have this in mind. Okay, so again.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Again, if she was not part of this rivalry and competition and between the Egyptians and the Romans, she would have, passed off as a great leader and full stop. So the reason why we're having this disputed personality and the fact that people differ on their assessment of her character would be because of the conflicting interests of the different parts. Look at other, Egyptian queens. If you're familiar with Hatshepsut, for example, this is ancient history. All you know about Hatshepsut, if you happen to know about her in the first place, is that she was a great leader and full stop. You don't have this dispute. You don't have this. You don't. Nobody comes out and say and starts to challenge the character of such a tongue twister, Hatshepsut, and say that Hatshepsut is good, is bad, for example. So again, the reason why we're having this dispute over the character of Cleopatra is because of the bitter struggles between the Romans and the Egyptians. Again, if she was not entangled in the relationships with those great Roman soldiers, Antony and Caesar, she would have, like I said, gone down in history as a great lady who ruled her country in a smart and in a skillful way, and that would be it. Okay. Again, also the reason why most of the sources are negative about the character of Cleopatra would be that she ended up on the losing side in these conflicts. Okay, she was, I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that they normally say if two countries are kind of fighting each other and one of them wins, the one who writes history would be the victorious side. Okay, so when you write history, you write it from your own perspective. You don't say, yes. Right? People are subconsciously dishonest when it comes to their own interests.
History is written by the victorious.
Yeah, absolutely. This is true. And make no mistake about it, Cleopatra was defeated, right? Big time, along, of course, with Antony. That's why history was written about and for her. Okay, again, this history was not very favorable when it comes to her character. Okay.
Can I add something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that Cleopatra, she's a bad person. Yani, that's why they talk about her bad way. Because she was in love with this man, then she married another man. She heard that the first man. That's why they say that she's bad person. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point that you're raising. What's your name?
Dalia.
Dalia. What Dalia is saying is, in a sense, consistent with what the Romans are saying about Cleopatra, and the reason is simply because their, like I said, their viewpoint is colored with the idea of morality. Okay, for them, people have to be, they have to have moral integrity, if you like. They have to be morally upright. Again, this is also something that you have to take with a grain of salt. You have to separate her personal life from her public life. Remember, at one point we said that perhaps she was doing what she was doing in order outmaneuver and outsmart the Roman, leaders, right?
And because her role.
What?
And because of her role as a queen.
Yeah, man. This is
her title.
What we're trying to say here is that historians, the Roman historians, together with the fact that they have their hatred towards her, they were also moralistic. They based their history on moral principles. The moral principles would say that, okay, she has to be married, she shouldn't be moving with this or that guy, and okay. Typical, like us, for example, okay, when we look at the attitudes and the behavior of people, and we judge him or her based on that. You can be an excellent, perhaps player, but if you are caught in a compromising situation, perhaps with a lady or something, your history is gone, right? But this is moralistic, and the Romans were like this. They used to judge people based on moral principles. If you are morally upright, you are doing a good job. If not, no matter how good you are in other aspects, you can be a great leader, but if you are a womanizer, for example, or if in our case we have Cleopatra and she gets entangled in relationship after the other, they say no. Forget about the fact that she's very smart. Forget about the fact that she is a capable governor or ruler, and let's focus on the fact that she's not morally good. She's morally corrupt.
I disagreed, Doctor. I disagreed with this idea.
You mean you don't? Yeah, I mean you're separating between the individual's personal life, private life, and his public life. If he's doing a good job in public, okay.
In political, Doctor, there is no morality. So how you can judge a person by his morality? How it cannot be. The reason I think because she kept the independence and unity of Egypt. This is the problem between Roman and Cleopatra. From my perspective, this is my.
And I'm saying that the Romans and the Roman historians, based on their assessments and their judgments of the character of Cleopatra, on whether she was morally upright or wrong, upright, and obviously to their taste, and for them she was not. She had relationships and stuff, together with the enmity and the competition that we spoke about. Yes, go ahead.
I believe. Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
For them, Egypt is a barbarian. That's what they see, and that's their morality. Like this, they think that this community is barbarian.
Yeah, they have their own prejudices. Yeah, that's true, and this perhaps was one big reason why when they get to know that Cleopatra is Egyptian, is an Egyptian queen, they would
intellectual, and they burn her library, the big libraries.
Yeah,
in
the Library of Alexandria. Yes.
This is a totally different story, Shabab. I don't know. Yeah, you're confusing stuff. Let's focus on Cleopatra.
Doctor, I think she was great, like politically, but in private she was evil.
And this is the idea. Now, this is what I'm trying to say: is that Romans are confusing between the private and the public.
Yes.
Okay. Whether we agree with them or not, this is obviously the subject of another day. This is what I'm trying to
say. Yes, that's true. She destroyed herself.
So the first individual that we're dealing with the first source would be a source by a guy by the name of Cassius Dio. And Cassius Dio is obviously a Roman historian who was born 200 years after, the Battle of Actium, where, Antony and Cleopatra were defeated. So I would like you to focus on the number of years. We're talking about a guy who came 200 years after the events. What do you think of this? Do you think that that would allow him, the opportunity to give a fair assessment of what happened, a fair assessment of the different characters and personalities?
No,
That makes him
of course
kind of
not.
unreliable.
Yeah, this is,
Her
absolutely.
fatal introduction with the most characters in Rome.
What?
Her fatal introduction with the most characters in Rome.
Okay, good enough, yes. So according to the Roman historian Cassius Dio, Cleopatra captivated the two greatest Romans of her time, and because of the third, she destroyed herself. This is actually a quote by one modern historian. He's saying he has studied the work of Cassius Dio and he came up with these conclusions. According to Cassius Dio, Cleopatra captivated. What is captivation? What is to captivate?
Capture, like as captives of war, like prisoners of war.
To hold hostage?
To hold hostage, to capture. Okay. So what do you think of this idea? When you describe somebody, especially a lady, as captivating, her beauty is captivating, right? I'm sure you have heard of this, adjective. So,
like relation. Relation with him.
Okay.
With them.
So what does this tell you about Cleopatra if she has captivated two greatest Romans of her time? Would that make her stupid? Would that make her, less skillful?
No,
Definitely
No,
not.
actually, it's make her stronger more.
Yeah, this is.
Cannot a lady at her age and young and the place where she is to have such a power over men like that, especially when they are in a very high place.
Okay, so they are. Okay, so they are going to keep talking about this idea of captivation, and they are going to take it to the next level, and they would say that she was more like, a witch or an enchanter, somebody who spells magic on people, more or less like a magician who could spell, charms and magic on that. So they are not giving her, they are not actually downplaying the idea of skill, the fact that she's very skillful, and they are obviously exaggerating the fact that she was more of a witch who is casting her own spell on people. Okay. Okay, we're stressing the fact that we're having all these ideas about her presented and portrayed in a negative manner because, of course, the fact that she lost her battles and she lost the war, and also the fact that she was a female in a male-dominated world. Again, we're stressing the fact that our perceptions and our ideas about Cleopatra and the other characters are normally, inspired by the media. So did we have media in ancient times? What is the media in ancient times?
It was public news where someone would just get on a high place and with a scroll just telling the news to people.
Wouldn't you consider books media?
Yeah, it could be, but they're not so much reliable. Depends on. Yeah.
I mean, media is whatever. Whatever platform people use in order to spread knowledge, to spread ideas, right? And literature is about ideas. Books are about ideas.
Yes, even poetry.
Yes. So this is what we're trying to say. Of course, there was no media in the past, but the media of the past were more or less the books that they used to write and other people read. It was the poetry that they produce. It was the pieces of sculpture, right? Okay. Again, so you are a recipient of all these media messages. You're a recipient of the. You read the books. You look at the statues. You recite poetry and enjoy it. So you get information and you get impressions and opinions by the writers, and the likelihood that you get affected is very high. Again, we're having a vicious propaganda campaign against the lady. Okay, the books that we're receiving from the Romans are all negative when it comes to the character of Cleopatra. Again, this is propaganda, and this is war propaganda. Remember, this is a state of war where on one side you have Octavian, the famous Roman leader, and on the other side you have Cleopatra and Antony. So it's war propaganda, and in war everything is possible. In war, you're allowed to tarnish the image of your enemy, to disfigure him or her and say bad stuff about him or her. Again, we're stressing the fact that she was a lady, and the fact that ladies were not, were not part of public life. Think of Roman history and tell me about women. I cannot think of one single military leader in the entire Roman history. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Like a female empress?
Yes. Okay. A queen. I cannot think of her. So this proves the idea that when they have a woman coming over and she gets in a relationship with one of their leaders, and perhaps they are going to get married, they feel very suspicious and very skeptical of this move.
Sorry, Doctor, for the interruption. But Cleopatra, she was not the first queen. There was Balqis in Yemen.
Yeah,
there were many queens before her, but he's asking about Romans.
Yeah, excellent. This is I didn't talk about Arab and other countries. I was focusing on history. I'm saying that,
I know one Roman empress.
She's part of the history. I mean, she's part of the history. I mean, they are familiar with a woman became a king.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, and I'm trying to explore the reasons why they have this enmity and this hatred for the lady. And I am saying that one reason why would be the fact that she ended up on the losing end. She lost the battle. And another reason would be that, the Romans are not used to having queens.
Clear.
So this is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, clear. Sorry, Doctor, clear.
Actually, Doctor, there was a Roman empress during her time. Her name is Livia, but she wasn't like the ultimate. I don't know, ultimate empress. She always consulted her counselors.
This this also proves the point that they are not. Even like you're saying, even the one that they have is not the best of all possible queens. right?
Yes. Yeah,
okay. Okay. So am I making sense so far? You guys?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes.
Of course.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know whether we have this in the same chapter or not. Did you have a chance to go to the reading 1.1? Is it in a separate book?
Yes.
Did you read it? Did you read the? We have obviously an abstract or a passage by Deus.
Page number.
Page, Doctor.
The page number, Doctor.
I don't know. It's not the one that I was. I don't have it handy. It's another book, I think.
The reading is in the book, the Reputation book, page 27, 101.
Where? You mean it's in this book? Let me check.
Page 27, reading 101 or 1.1.
27.
Oh.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is taking a little bit long.
And resources.
Wait. 21?
Yes.
27.
27.
27, I'm sorry. Okay, I think we have it. Yeah, okay.
27.
So we're saying reading 1.1 or what? Or
yes,
no.
reading 1.1.
1.1.
Augustus on Cleopatra.
Okay. So this is the source that I am referring to. This is so what do we have? We're saying Augustus, and by Augustus, of course, we mean Octavian. Okay. So what's happening? So it's Augustus, not Dius, right? The Dius or Deu is the one who reproduced the speech. This is obviously a speech, a victory speech by Augustus or Octavian, and in which he talks about Antony and Cleopatra. And this was rewritten and redrafted by Dio. Okay, so let's read it and see what Augustus has to say, and then see whether we agree that this was Augustus or perhaps somebody else or something. Can we read it? I think we can, right? If you don't have the book handy, you can always look on the screen. And I'll give you a minute for that. Go ahead.
Can I read, Doctor?
No. Read on your own. Read on your own.
Which page?
This is 27. The resources part 27.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You may want to take notes. I'm going to take notes myself. Whatever you think is significant and whatever you think is proving our point, good or bad. Yeah. He's saying bad stuff about Egyptians. No, I am Egyptian. I'm hopeful that you guys are reading. Huh? Can we take them one at a time? Obviously, you have a number of extracts, right? Can we start with the first one, the first? So we Romans are the rulers of the greatest and best parts of the world, and yet we find ourselves spurned and trampled upon by a woman of Egypt. So what do you think of this? This is, by the way, this is Octavian or Augustus, and this is a reproduction or a redraft of what he said, or what Deyu is claiming he said. So what struck you as perhaps strange, as offensive, as bad? Okay, if you ask, yeah, go ahead.
The offensive, the fact that Egyptian people are
let's just focus on the first 3 lines. I'm not talking about the second part.
The first one.
Yes. Please mute your mics, everyone. Are you going to say something?
Cleopatra is lost the war with Octavian.
Finda, where is that? Now we're focusing on the first part, mind you.
Sorry.
Now we're reading.
Doctor?
I perceive that they were cowards. Like
maybe, Doctor, this is the main reason. The main reason.
No, I'm not. Ya Jama'a. This is a close reading. I'm sure you're familiar with close reading. Close reading means that you focus on the text and you give me what is in the text. You guys are giving interpretations. No, don't interpret yet.
Yeah, just Doctor. I said this is the reason for their enemy, for why they now.
Tell me things. Give me. And we're making an assessment of the character, or Deyu and Augustus are talking about Cleopatra, and obviously he is not saying very beautiful things about her. So what are those not very beautiful things that you can spot and see in the text?
Can I answer?
Yes.
The Romans were so into themselves that they see themselves as the greatest leaders of the world.
Yeah.
So they find it like shaming to be spurned and trampled by a woman like Cleopatra.
Two things. He's saying
they were insulted by
a woman, right? A woman, and a woman and from Egypt. See? This is what he's trying to say. He's trying, we are the greatest, and we're being treated in a negative way. By whom? By a woman. And this woman happens to also be from where? From Egypt. And he's going to elaborate on this negativity. So what did he say more about the woman and about the Egyptians? Are you getting my idea?
Yes.
Okay, so would we not utterly dishonor ourselves if, after surpassing all other nations in valor, we then meekly endured the insults of this rabble? He's describing the Egyptians and Egypt as rabble, the natives of Alexandria and of Egypt. And he's saying that they are ignoble. Ignoble is the opposite of noble, which is obviously a negative adjective, right? And he's saying they worship reptiles. So they is a reference to whom?
To the people of Egypt.
Okay. If he says that they worship reptiles, you know what reptiles and beasts and animals are, right?
Yeah.
So this is a good or a bad description?
Bad description.
Absolutely.
For the Egyptian
Probably
people.
bad.
Yeah, absolutely bad. But like, worst of all, okay, I mean, the worst is not there yet. Worst of all, they are not ruled by a man. See the mentality?
They're also misogynists, so
Yes, this is what I'm saying. They are not ruled by a man, and they are the slaves of a woman. Are you getting this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice, nice. And then you keep moving on, and he starts to talk about, you know, Anthony himself, and is going to refer to him as effeminate. Effeminate means woman-like. Okay, go on, go on. So who wouldn't groan at hearing that Roman knights and senators grovel before her like yonks? You know, of course, what yonks are. Okay, again, if what I mean, this is what he is saying. If what I fear happens, we're going to all be under her. Her feet, and we're not going to be men then. Wouldn't we? Who wouldn't weep when he sees and hears what Anthony has become? Anthony, according to him, has become woman-like, has become very meek, very sheltered, not a Roman soldier anymore. Okay, and he goes on, right? He is either blind to reason or mad, right? This is he is a reference to, of course, Anthony. Okay, and then he goes on and he says he is bewitched by that accursed woman. Who is this that accursed woman?
Cleopatra.
Cleopatra. Accursed means that he is cursing her, right? He is bewitched. What is bewitching? Bewitching
spell is on him.
When you cast a spell on somebody.
Yes,
this
like
is witchcraft.
Witchcraft. Yeah.
Yes, they used to say at the time that Egyptians or ancient Egyptians are, you know, practiced. They have
magicians.
knowledge. They have knowledge of witchcraft. So again, if you say that she is bewitching men, it means that you're denying her the fact that she is very smart and clever, right? Another misogynist attitude. Am I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that they are weak.
Yes. And then he goes on. It's the same thing. Again, he would talk about the idea that Anthony is self-indulgent. He's not a Roman soldier anymore. He doesn't have valor or courage. Okay. So again, you see how negative this is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is a Roman source. This is a Roman source. Would you have expected a different speech?
No.
No.
Of course not.
Of course, your enemy is not going to say nice stuff about you unless your enemy is such a morally abrupt individual, and we don't have those in the world, right?
But the speech is rewritten, right? So there might be some misleading information about it, right?
Yeah, this is what I was going to stress. The fact that we don't know for sure whether this was actually, Octavian or Augustus. We're not sure. Remember, there is a 200-year interval between the war and the battles at Actium and the birth and the life of Dio. We would take whatever he says with a grain of salt. It means that we wouldn't accept and take for granted what Cassius Dio is saying. So what Cassius Dio's piece is proving to us, it is proving the fact that typical of the Romans, they are not portraying Cleopatra in the best of manners. They are referring to the Egyptians as inferior, and they are referring to Cleopatra as perhaps a witch, as you know, somebody who is you know, in a kind of manipulative, using people to her own advantage. Again, as you can see, he is denying her any good points. She's not. I mean, he never referred to the fact that if she could entangle those guys in relationships, it doesn't mean that she is smart. It means that she is a witchcraft practitioner, more or less. Okay, so this is our first source, and you can almost tell that it is biased, it is prejudiced, and it is not fair or objective. Okay, making sense so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So let's have to, yeah. So this is actually what the writer of the book is saying about the extract that we have just read. So as you read through this extract, think about the manner in which his speech of Octavian, as given by Cassius Dio. So the manner in which this speech presents a negative image of Antony through his association with Cleopatra and Egypt. So what this speech tells us about how ancient historians wrote, for example, thus Cassius Dio seemed to be presenting an impartial means objective, honest picture of the past based on a careful weighting of the evidence, not that I know of. I haven't noticed. It's all prejudice, it's all negative, it's all offensive, right? There is not one single redeeming point that he is referring to when it comes to the character of Cleopatra.
Opinions.
It's all negative.
No evidence.
Yeah. And he's like, what's your name?
Salma.
Sama?
Salma Fuad.
Salma. And like Salma Fuad is saying, you don't have evidence. You're just giving us descriptions, and you're not going. I mean, you're not justifying what you say, right? These are mere claims. If you have a claim, you have to establish the claim by providing evidence. If I say, for example, that Dr. Sameh is a bad teacher, okay, so I have to come up with pieces of evidence, right? So if I say that Cleopatra is a witchcraft practitioner, she is a seducer, she is this and that, he has to come up with pieces of evidence that we haven't seen in the speech, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
true.
okay. So I'm not going to repeat that. This is a discussion of the speech that we have just read together. So I would like you to read it on your own. It's, I mean, it's more or less like what we have said. The fact that Antony has embraced a foreign and decadent way of life, and he became bewitched and enslaved by Cleopatra. He is self-indulgent. He is now soft, and he is no longer a threat. He is a lover and a dancer instead of a fighter. You see how negative that is? And then when he talks about the Egyptians and the fact that they are slaves of a woman, worshippers of reptiles and beasts, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, right.
Okay. Again, we're a little, not a little, actually, we are very much suspicious about its authenticity, whether it is authentic. Authentic means whether it was really written or given by Octavian or not. Remember, we have good reasons to believe that this could be a fabricated
Yes, it's unreliable.
Yes. One reason would be the fact that it was written over 200 years after the events. So how could Cassius know what Octavian said in his speech? This is one of the questions that we should be asking. Again, typical of the time, the historians of the time are not like us, or the historians of our time, where you have to provide evidence. Even us, when we write a piece of work, I mean, you write a TMA, for example, or an assignment, and you're using outside sources, we ask you to come up with pieces of evidence or to back up whatever arguments you have. Right? If you're saying that something is good, you have to provide reasons why you're saying that it is good. Right? Correspondingly, if you're saying that something is bad, you also have to say why it is bad. Let's come out of the class and you go and say, listen, I mean, the voice is not clear, the system is acting up and everything. So people are going to ask you, okay, what you're saying, when did it happen, and how? Give us screenshots, perhaps record something, right? So it's evidence that, or pieces of evidence that you should collect to prove your point. If you're not, if you're merely describing something, this is not acceptable. So this was the system in ancient times. You don't have historians who go to universities and spend years upon years studying history, studying how to collect material and how to back up their arguments. You don't have that. So when you deal with historians from the past, you have to keep your guard up. You shouldn't take whatever they say for granted. You need to challenge the sources so that you can come up with an honest assessment and an honest account of what actually used to happen in the past. Okay, am I making sense?
Yes.
And we move to another biased individual, and I shouldn't be saying biased because if I say, let me finish my story first. If I say biased, it means that I'm spoiling it for you, right? So I shouldn't be saying. I mean, let's judge him on his merit. This is Plutarch, and Plutarch used to be a very famous, literary figure, and he used to also live perhaps 150 years after the events. And Plutarch came up with a collection of characters. I mean, he wrote a book, and obviously the obvious reason for writing the book, when they asked him, he used to say that I'm trying to give people examples, good and bad. I'm trying to give rulers examples from history. I'm going to show them historical figures, and some of these historical figures are brilliant and excellent so that people can follow them. And I'm going to also give them examples of bad people so that people can avoid them. Okay, so among the people that he featured in his book was Antony. He wrote a chapter on Antony, and it's called The Life of Antony. Okay, remember, he is talking about Antony that is now disfigured, and his reputation is tarnished, and is considered by the Romans as perhaps a traitor, somebody who is working against his country. So what do you expect Plutarch to say about Antony? Good stuff?
He described him a lover.
What?
He describes him as Cleopatra lover.
Yeah, this is one of the this is one of the things.
And that she has a fatal influence on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he claims that she is temptation personified.
كل ده? Okay, what's your name?
Sarah Mohammed.
Sarah, okay. Sarah, can you mute your mic, please?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Very excellent and very beautiful insights. Yes, it is true. Plutarch is saying that Antony is now under the influence of Cleopatra, and she is a lady fatale, like they say, or somebody who is normally very toxic and very poisonous. So whenever you approach her, whenever you come, when there is some kind of, when you get to know her and you become her friend or something, this is obviously very bad. Okay, so Plutarch is obviously singing from the same sheet of music like Cassius Dio. I mean, it's almost the same. I mean, we could have given the paragraph about Plutarch after Cassius Dio, and you wouldn't notice any difference. It's all toxic, it's all negative, and everything. So Plutarch's life of Antony is the principal ancient source for the events surrounding Antony. So if the other part was more about Cleopatra and her people, this part is about Antony. And not only Antony, there is, of course, space for Cleopatra and even Octavian. Okay, it's more or less like a biography that Plutarch is giving. You know what a biography is? When you have the history of somebody written by somebody other than the person himself. There is obviously a difference between biography and autobiography. Autobiography is your history written by none other than yourself. You yourself write your own history. In this case, we call it autobiography. So this is biography, the biography of Mark Antony as written by Plutarch. So again, what is it that Plutarch is going to say about Antony? Let's see for our, you need to also remember that this was 150 years after the death of everybody. You need to also think of the authenticity of what is happening. You need to check whether what he is saying about Antony really applies to Antony or not. Okay, so we have an extract here. Let's read it. So the love for Cleopatra, which now entered his life, came as the final and crowning mischief which could befall him. It excited to the point of madness many passions which had hitherto lain concealed, or at least dormant, and it stifled or corrupted all those redeeming qualities in him which were still capable of resisting temptation, whatever that means. What do you make of that? Is he portraying Antony in a good light or in a negative manner?
Negative.
Negative, right? He's saying, yes. So he's saying that this is, I mean, having a relationship with Cleopatra, loving Cleopatra would be the culmination of all his mischief. I mean, he has been misbehaving for quite some time, and now the biggest misbehavior would be falling in love with Cleopatra. Again, he's talking about the fact that this is madness on his part. I mean, to be in love with Cleopatra, this is mad. This is being mad. This is crazy. Again, and that would kind of control. People wouldn't talk about any redeeming qualities in him. He exhausted all the redeeming qualities, and he doesn't have any more of them. And this obviously would not allow him to be able to resist the temptation of Cleopatra. So again, seduction, it's temptation, it's witchcraft. Okay, it's all negative, as you can see. Okay, this is more or less a discussion of what we have been talking about, and the fatal influence that Cleopatra has on Antony, the fact that she is temptation personified, and of course Antony is not able to resist this kind of temptation. So as you can see so far, the Roman sources are all negative, right? Are all denigrating the character of Cleopatra and Antony. Okay, and then we have another piece that would also, you know, go or run in the same line. Her own beauty, so we are told, was not of that incomparable kind, which instantly captivates the beholder. But the charm of her presence was irresistible. But this is, by the way, this is to her credit. For the first time, we're having somebody who is saying that it's more, there is more about Cleopatra than just beauty. I mean, he's saying that she wasn't that beautiful. So obviously, it's not the fact that she's beautiful. She didn't captivate Antony because she was beautiful, but the charm of her presence. What do we call this? When we say that somebody has a charm of personality or a charm of presence, what do we call that? We have a word for it.
Charisma?
Absolutely, yes, charisma, yes.
That's
and
right.
this is what I mean. So he is actually giving her credit without knowing that he's doing that. He's trying to prove that can I finish this? He's trying to say that she's not very beautiful. So if she's not beautiful, he has to come up with a reason why she would captivate Antony, and he's saying that she has a charm. I mean, her presence is very charming. And again, he's stressing the word charm, and the word charm means that there is something, you know, out of, it's not something intrinsic or inherent in her. It's a magic that she is practicing, obviously, on everyone. Okay, so there was an attraction in her person and her talk, together with a peculiar force of character. See, he's giving her credit without knowing that he is doing that. A peculiar force of character, which pervaded her every word and action. Okay, and laid all who associated with her under its spell that he is talking about again. Yes. What? Okay. So as you can see, it's you know, it's what do we call this? We call it backhanded or left-handed compliments. When you give somebody a compliment, or sometimes we call it damning praise. So you're praising somebody against your own will. You're praising somebody without really wanting to praise him or her. Okay. Excuse me. If you think we should go, we can go. Can we pick this up again perhaps next time? Can I trust you with the rest of the chapter?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so what I want you to do for next time, I would like you to read the entire chapter. When we meet again, we're going to finish Cleopatra off and make the transition to what's his name? Dr. Faustus and What's the name? I mean, I keep forgetting the name of this guy.
Christopher Marlowe.
Christopher Marlowe. I keep forgetting. I don't know.
Marlowe.
Yes, Christopher Marlowe. So, again, we're going to all read, and I welcome comments on the group. We can always talk about. I mean, we can share ideas and insights after you read the chapter, after perhaps you do your own research on Cleopatra and the sources and all these kinds of things. Again, when we meet again next time, we're going to start off with a part that we're leaving now, and then we make the transition to Christopher Marlowe and Dr. Faustus. Do you guys have, you guys have 3 minutes to ask all the questions that you may have. Go ahead. Again, don't ask me about the assessment and the quizzes, because like I said, when I finish from here, I have a meeting with the PCC where we're going to finalize this assessment setup and everything.
Excuse me, Doctor.
Yes.
How can we join the group, our course?
Okay, perhaps you can. You know my number, right?
Yeah, I already sent you a message.
Okay. So send me a message, and I can always forward it to the admin of the group. How about that?
I don't have your number.
Yeah, Doctor, can you send again?
Send what?
Email.
Send what?
Your number.
Doctor, sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
Can put my number now. They can send me immediately.
You want what?
I am the admin, Doctor.
Oh, okay.
Can I put my telephone number? Can I say my telephone number?
Yahya, right? Your name is
Yahya. Yes.
Yahya is the admin, and you can always, he can always share his number with you.
I can put it now, Doctor. I can share it.
Of course.
050 1333344. 0501 333344. This is my number. Thanks.
Okay.
Write it in the chat. Can you repeat, please, your number?
One final time. Yeah.
I said 050 1 0501 333344.
So, okay.
Okay. So, shall we call it a night, everyone?
Doctor, I have a question.
Yeah, quickly, because like I told you, I have a meeting at 6.
Yeah, but for later on,
yes.
for our quizzes and exams, etc. Do we study from the book, or there's some slides, or we can like
everything? I mean, you can study from the book, and you will be doing a good job. You can we can always share slides and stuff. It's all the sources are all reliable. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. On this note, and with this item, we come to the end of today's class. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, Doctor.
And likewise.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye-bye, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Goodbye.